Okay, I think this might be live. Okay, well, with that out of the way, let's get started with what I was planning on doing today. Maybe I'll draw a little. I don't know how game dev works. So I think what I'm working on right now is I'm learning Godot, and presumably if you're watching this, which I already lost you with the long lead-in where I didn't do anything, maybe I'll cut to right here if I edit this, which of course I'm not going to do. But yeah, the plan is I'm going to sit here and fiddle with Godot for a bit. I'm working on a video game probably, he says. Let's get started. So first of all, I'm going to switch windows because I don't want to be on this window. I want to be on this window. And I've got a basic login screen, which I'm looking at here. I'm working on the theme. Okay, so the layout of the project so far is basically just like empty project. It's an empty project with your Godot guy right in the center. And so I'm getting started with UI because I have a backing web service that I want to be able to connect to. And so the first step in that, I think, is creating like a login page. I guess a create account page kind of needs to be before a login page, but I can always create an account in a different window. So long as I have the ability to log in, I'm good. But well, I can talk more about how that works later on. I'm talking to no one here. This is just for me. I'm kind of just talking to myself here. The reason I'm streaming at all is partially just because, well, it gets kind of lonely to software develop on my own, but also I lose focus really easily. And so the idea is if I'm streaming, I can't like surf Reddit for 45 minutes instead of doing something, because, you know, nobody would want to watch that. I mean, I can't imagine anybody would want to watch this, but at least it could happen, you know? Anyways, we're staring at this email, phone number, and password. Now here's the thing. I actually, I'm not sure if I should be starting here exactly, because this it's just a UI, but like, there's no way to switch to and from this UI. How do I get into this UI? That's a question. And another thing is that my game is kind of divided into sections. Here, I'll bring up the reason I have this setup is so that I can kind of diagram as I go. And so one of the first and kind of most important things in the game is, and I say game in like big air quotes, is I've got a server, and on that server there might be like dozens of different communities that you connect to. And so this might be like community A, this might be community B, this might be community C. And I'm actually maintaining like a whole separate auth flow and stack for each of these communities. So like if you log into community A, you can do that with a different identity than if you log into community B. And you like, that sounds inconvenient. Like, why not have a single unified authentication system for the whole product? But the reason for that is that, you know, in the future, this is way in the future, like here I am at a stage where I haven't even built a game before, and I've already designed the server architecture for a gigantic system. But that's the thing, is I'm a server architect, so that's what I think about first, because I'm you know, kind of an idiot. And so if each of these communities hosts their own authentication, that means that, you know, down the road, these can all be hosted on separate servers, which means that, like, if this server, the server hosting a community, starts to get overloaded, then I can split it into 2 servers, and then each server can have half of the communities, and as it grows, I can reach the point where it's like really big communities might just live on one beefy server. And really small communities, they could be shared. You can share like 30 of them to a server. And the server architecture is kind of designed to allow that up front. The idea being is that, like, this server that we're connecting to, this is built using Rust, and it supports, like, fast WebSocket communication. So that server is going to be potentially talking to hundreds of people, and handling things like, you know, chat and real-time functionality for, like, a little community. And so I say all of this because I was just showing you a login window, but obviously before you get to the login window, you need some way to select which community you want to connect to. And then you'd also, I think, want some kind of way to, like, you want to save that between runs. You know, like, if I open up if I open up this game, and I connect to a specific community, I'm going to want to save, like, this is the community that you connected to that last time. Just treat that as the default community. In fact, just stay logged in there forever. And then the only time we'd want to switch is if someone were to, like, back out of the community and say, like, no, I want to go log into a different community now. And that might even be hosted on a different server down the road. But, like, for now, at least, it's all the same server. But it does mean that, like, the first thing you want to do in this application, your you know, operation 0 is choosing a community to connect to. Now, the imagined flow for this in my head is these communities are, like, by necessity, like, private, which means that someone will have sent you a link to the community, and so the game will prompt you for, like, please enter a link to the community that you've been given. I guess that might come from outside the application entirely. It could be like a QR code, but oh my god, the thought of going from I don't know anything about Godot to I need to build a QR reader seems like a bit of a tough row to hoe up front. Well, and that is kind of where, you know, maybe the idea is I don't start there. maybe we just start with a search interface. We search the communities, we find the community we've been invited to, and we enter an invite code by hand? Like, just we enter the whole code with, like, a keyboard? That sounds ugly. I don't love that. Oh, being able to talk to myself while I work on these things really surfaces problems that I'm having. I don't feel confident building a QR code reader right away. Maybe I should just power through that and build a QR code reader up front. That feels like a bit of a hole to go down. No, honestly, I think this is I mean, as much as this is, like, something we definitely want to get to, you know, QR. Yeah, like, this is going to be the easiest way to get into a friend's community, is they give you a code, you take the code, you put it into a QR code reader, and then you're in their community. That's the invite process. It's very smooth, but that is, I think, a little outside of my skill set in Godot right now, a little beyond what I am prepared to build. I want to build confidence by working on other Godot features before I work up to something that uses an integrated camera, because, honestly, I'm not confident that Godot's integrated camera is a thing that exists. I don't even think that's a thing you could do with Godot. But passing in a link. Okay, so here's the thing, is that you don't have to use a QR code directly in the application. Sunderfolk does. That's the thing that, like, Sunderfolk has this. But Sunderfolk is a native app. And we're working with Godot, which might not offer any ability to work with the camera on a phone that you're running Godot on. Because Godot was designed as a desktop video game thing. It feels like their mobile support is kind of, you know, I don't want to say tacked on. I'm sure they've considered it carefully, but sorry, camera pass-through might be a bit of a bridge too far. However, if you open a QR code in your camera app, it will pop up a link, which means if there's a way to set up Android contextual links, then we should be good to go, right? Which means I guess the next maybe a little step might be just doing a little research, like how do I set up a contextual link in Android that points to my application and trigger it from a QR code is the question that I have to ask here. Android deep links. Twinner.dev, good lord. Okay. This looks like it's AI generated. I could just ask ChatGPT if I'm going to read a generated article, but yeah, deep linking. This reads so much like it was written by an AI, but hey, if it tells me what I need to know, it tells me what I need to know. Well, sorry, I haven't switched away from my doodle screen. Here we go. I gotta stay on top of switching between screens when I move my focus to a new screen, because otherwise you're not gonna be able to see me type a query into Google. Okay. You need to prove your app owns the URL by hosting a special file on your domain. That seems very easy. Yeah, I know why they matter. How do they work? Okay, you define your link scheme, so this would be like, Groovelet is kind of the soft name of my app, so this would read Groovelet, and then you give it the address that you want it to link to, which would be Groovelet, and then the name of the community we're linking to. Add intent files in the XML file. Oh, so you just, you define them in your Android manifest.xml, and then that should pass it right in? That seems pretty doable. Okay, so that's like a viable way in. But until I get to that point, like I'm not quite at the point where I don't even have my Godot like creating an Android app yet. That's going to be a whole pipeline I need to set up. I think relatively soon. Like it feels like really early on in this process, if I intend the Godot app to run on Android, I should have a working Android build, because that just seems like an early step in the process. But right now I'm trying to get just some like super basic UI together, like, you know, proof of concept level stuff. But I'm glad, I think this is going to be my solution when I want a QR code into the app, so it's at least good to know. Gosh, it feels like, I mean, I don't have anybody watching this stream. It feels like I'm just kind of talking to myself in the future, or making a live journal as I go, but that feels good. I don't think that's a bad thing to be doing. It certainly kept me a little more focused on my task than usual. Okay. So the reason I have fonts up is because when I was looking at this password window, I thought, oh, this is just the default style. I'd love to learn how themes work in Godot. And I created a default theme, and I started fussing with it, and then I wasn't actually sure what I wanted to do with the default theme. I really don't understand theming terribly well in Godot. I'm very, very used to CSS, and this seems like it has, like, I would say not a ton of relationship to CSS, except that a theme works kind of like a CSS style sheet would, but then actually interacting with it is very different as far as I can tell. But I did want to start by changing the font, because it feels like a simple thing to do, and at least a little satisfying to have a different font for the game. And so, the vibe that I'm kind of going for is, in the game, is like calm, like a cozy game with a sort of soft, bubbly feel, you know, Animal Crossing-y. And so, I mean, calm, cute, playful. Cute might be a one to see what they got down to the cute. These feel a little too stylistic. This one's not bad. Delius, but it's only one style. I do like having access to like bolded stuff. I guess I can say only show me ones that have more than one style. It's got to be sans serif. Humanist sans or geometric tends to be the one I'm looking for. Rounded. Oh, you can pick one at a time though. Rounded? Well, we'll look. Technology. I don't need variable, but I would like at least say like 3 styles. Sour gummy looks nice. I guess if you tell it what you want, the first result should be kind of what you're looking for. Look at this. It's got kind of like a. It's got a nice, I would say like I said, an Animal Crossing-y vibe. That's my current top pick for, you know, just like a fun, bouncy in-game font. Yeah, okay. Sour gummy. That's it's very cute. I would, especially if I'm doing a lot of lettering in this font, I would kind of want something a little more readable. But I like the big X height and the chunky roundness. This is a comfortable feeling font. And type in the name. Rule. Nice. Hi. Welcome to my little town. That's fun. That feels bouncy. I kind of want, what's the word? Bolder. Let's take the size down a little bit. Okay, so we're going to see like, find a community is probably one of the first things you're going to see written in this font. And it's going to be in like a big beefy. Yeah, this feels good. I actually really like the thin, actually. Like, this is lovely. Oh, we should check of course, if we're including it in a game. And one of the reasons I'm on Google Fonts is because usually the licenses are SIL, and so you want an open font license because if you're going to use someone's assets, you want to make sure you're allowed to use those assets. Used, studied, modified, and redistributed freely as long as they are not sold by themselves, which is kind of what I'm looking for here. Yep, this is a open font license. Thanks, Sour Gummy, for project authors. It's a beautiful font. Okay, I just want to download it. Oh, I got a bunch of stuff from a previous project hanging around. Who does not love some open sans? Ooh, Playpen. You know what? Playpen sans also feels like something I would have picked for the same project. Is Playpen sans better? This is... I don't know. I kind of like Sour Gummy better. I bet I picked Playpen sans for, like, the website. Let's check. What did I put on the website? Do I have the website available? Oh yeah, it's running. Localhost 3000. Warp. Oh, this is just kind of a... This is a sans, not a like, Playpen sans. Oh, I bet I used Playpen sans when I was working on my last little video game. This feels like a good video game font for the last project I was working on. I don't need it right now. It's kind of good to remember that was a one that I liked and used for a game, though. Sour Gummy, though. I guess if I download it, it'll just show up in my downloads. I can double download Playpen sans. Okay, here we go. Playpen sans Sour Gummy. Copy Sour Gummy out of the downloads. Okay, now we'll just paste that. But now that I got the font here, I think I can just drop these. The variable nature of the font is a little concerning. Like, I'm not sure if Godot knows how to deal with variable width fonts, which is why they've got the static font directory, which is just like all of the different weights you might want, rather than having a variable width font, which allows you to essentially fuss with the width in any application that has the ability to deal with variable fonts like that. I'm not sure if Godot has that ability, which is why the static bar is here, you know, if we need it. I don't know, let's give it a try. Maybe we'll get lucky and we can deal with the variable fonts, because then it'll just be a lot less files loaded. I guess I can try to just drag that into my theme folder, because I got my stuff going on here, so I'll just like take the Sour Gummy. Did I unpack it? Where did I put it? Did I lose it immediately? Oh god. Okay, now this is Sour Gummy. And we'll drag that into the theme directory. And now we've got the Sour Gummy variable font. Width, weight. Okay, I don't need the full name there. I'm just going to call it Sour Gummy variable. Isn't that nice? Let's hope that works. Because if I can just drop that. So over here, we've selected our default theme, and in our default theme, we've got a default font. So here we can drop in sour gummy variable, and it has gone very chunky with its choice here. But it doesn't look like there's any way in the default font to modify. Maybe there is. What can I change the width of this font? It's got a default font size, but there's no way to like fuss with the variable width. Gosh, there might be a way that I'm just not smart enough to notice. Here's the resource. I guess if I click on the sour gummy variable, that takes me into here. It's got some options. Anti-aliasing is not going to be what I'm interested in here. Hinting, subpixel positioning, oversampling, open type features. Oh, can I add it? Because that's an open type feature, right? So it has alternates, ligatures. This is how I'd support alternates and ligatures, and some of the cool stuff that might come in the font. Fractions. Oh, that's it. It's neat that that's a thing, but I also feel like the variable width is an open type feature, but it doesn't really seem to be listed here. So maybe it'll be a few more Godot features before that shows up, or maybe I just don't know how it works. Honestly, the idea that I just don't know how it works seems like the most likely outcome here, right? Godot is a complicated application, and I haven't fully figured it out. Ooh, pre-render configurations? Maybe I gotta have a bunch of different configurations for this? That would explain, this seems a lot more complicated than just dragging in the static fonts. Maybe I should just give up on the idea of using a variable width font and just pull in static fonts as I need them. I remember that I liked bold, I liked the thin, so yeah, I just grab like 8 variations and drop them in here in a sour gummy folder. It's just going to be easier than trying to figure out how to use a variable thickness font. Although, wouldn't it be so cool to have, well, I don't want to say so cool, but like, we have so many animation features available to us in Godot, and so being able to animate the thickness of the font just feels really satisfying as a thing to be able to do. But I think that might be flying a little close to the sun. Okay, let's drop sour gummy variable. No, don't delete node username. I want to delete this object. Delete. Yep. Remove. Okay, we're holding on to it. Maybe in the theme folder, we'll create a new folder. And we'll call it fonts, because fonts should live in the theme area, right? That's where they belong. And we'll create a new folder, and we'll call it sour gummy. Oh god, I still make file names like I'm programming for Linux in the year 1998. It's like, oh yeah, you gotta have those underscores. Okay, fonts, sour gummy, and we probably don't need the entire folder, but I mean, they're all 50 kilobytes, so like, what's the worst that can happen? I guess the worst that can happen is just that it'll be kind of frustrating to have to deal with them all at the same time, but hey, they'll be here if I need them. Oh, but there's so many. Look at all these. This is just like, there's no way I'm ever going to need to use all of these, and maybe by including all of them, I'll just be making a mess for myself later. But at the same time, like, they're there if I need them, I guess. I said I liked bold. Okay. The other thing is whether I want like semi-expanded and expanded. There are options here. Yeah, I'm just gonna grab the whole ass set. I'm probably not gonna use them all, but they'll be there if I need them. If that doesn't seem like it's the best way to build assets for you. Oh, here's another question: is like, if I throw these in there, is there a chance they might get packaged in the final game, even if they're not actually pointed to by the, like, if I build an APK, or if I build, like, especially if I'm building this as like a web package, is there a chance that web package is going to include every single font that I've linked to, even if they're not referenced in the game code? Maybe I should be a little tighter about what I actually throw into this theme directory, if that could be the case. I mean, I've got sour gummy saved here. Like, if I need more options from sour gummy, I can always come get them. But for now, maybe I'll start with sour gummy medium, and I remember I liked the thin and the bold, so they're just like, I'll grab the bold and the thin, and I'll just pull in those 3, and if I need more, I'll go get more. And until then, okay, one more. Not just a thin, but also the light. How about also an italic? Just one italic. It's there if I need it. That's a nice set of fonts there. For just the one font too. It's just a nice set of options within one font. Then we go back to our default theme, and the default font here is not going to be. I'm going to clear that, and we're going to toss in Sourgummy Medium. Maybe let's just try some of the other ones too. Sourgummy Light. How's that? No, that's I mean, I can't say I don't like it, but Sourgummy Bold. Oh, it feels pretty good. It's a little unreadable here. You see how fuzzy that looks? It'll probably be crisper if I boot it up in the editor, though, because it's not. I mean, it's a little small. I want this to be a touch more readable. Is the thing. Okay. What if I set a default font size just a little bigger? What if I set this at 10? That's very small. 30? Ooh, big. 25? Okay, that takes up. Oh, that feels kind of satisfyingly sized. This is all currently sized at the width of email/phone number. So the VBox container here doesn't have a set width. I should probably like manually set this width, because just having it like, if I change this to just say email, all of a sudden we're much thinner, and so. Also, is it email? Is it email? Is it email? I think email is fine. Electronic mail provider. Email. You know what? I'm starting to get a little lonely here. I might like consider telling other people that I'm doing this and have them going live. Oh, there were three views that passed through, and they stayed for 42 seconds? Wow. Okay. Lovely. I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty chill, and the thought of someone watching me for even 42 seconds is like, it's pretty cool. I'll take 42 seconds of viewing. Okay, well, if people are just gonna cruise in on their own, like, I don't know. I was thinking of posting a link to this on the social media, which, of course, the only social media I currently use is Mastodon, which is popular. It's got like 3 people on it, but I could share this with those 3 people. Where's the link? I'm so bad at streaming that, like, the thought of finding a link and sharing it with the internet is maybe beyond my technical ability. I've got the link that is like the stream management link, but that's not what I'm looking for. Sorry if I'm killing some time here and try to figure out how computers work. YouTube.com. Do you have a live stream for me? Am I running a live stream? If I go to my own personal page, view your channel. Look at me. Here's the stream. It's live. Copy that link. Kadoki. I'm gonna toss that in social media and be like, hey, I'm streaming myself. Donking around with Godot. It is very chill, and you probably shouldn't watch unless you are very bored. The link has been posted. Finally, we've rolled out the red carpet, and so people can show up at their own pace as I donk around with Godot. And, you know, I posted it on the one social media I use, which is Mastodon. And again, there's like 4 people on Mastodon. I don't know why I'm dunking on Mastodon. If anyone actually comes and watches the stream, they're going to be from the social media network I'm dunking on. But, I mean, I do kind of like the idea of keeping the stream, you know, to a limited audience, because I'm pretty new to the idea of streaming. one of the reasons I'm doing it in the first place is just the idea that, like, if I were to ever actually ship a game, it would probably be useful to have some experience with, like, the self-promotion side of things, and nowadays that's a lot about being hyper available to the internet. And hyper availability involves doing things like streaming. Okay, so we've got this really basic UI, but as I mentioned before, this isn't even the UI that I'm trying to build right now. Okay, we got our theme going. I'd love to change some other things about this theme, like maybe put a rounded outside around it, but let's focus on functionality before we focus on making it real pretty. Although I'm happy I managed to change the default font. It makes the whole thing feel a little more fun and bouncy. Okay, so having done that, I think we maybe need to. We've got a login panel. Oh, this is script. I haven't actually started organizing my scenes beyond that. I think it would make sense to be like UI elements would be. Yeah, maybe I should worry about moving them around once I have more of them to deal with. It'll maybe make a clearer organization. But we're going to create a new scene, and that scene is going to be a user interface node. And I think that user interface node is going to be the one where we find a community. So we're going to call it Community Finder. That seems like. That seems good. Well, it seems like a basic. Should I like UI or something? Mark that as a UI node. Honestly, if I put it in like a UI directory, then that'll feel unnecessary. So maybe I should put it in a UI directory. Okay, we'll start with Community Finder. And now we've got a spot for it. Create a new folder, and we'll call it UI Scenes. Maybe we should have a Scenes folder? UI. And we'll drop, we got Login Panel, and we've got Community Finder. Kind of got threefold, which is a concept I was working on, and I'm probably going to end up tossing out, but it was a neat little idea while I was working on it. Yeah, and then character is also a scene, although it's not a UI scene. That's your icon, main scene. That should actually live at the top level of the directory, I think. Okay, so now that we've got a Community Finder scene, here is our place where it lives. I can stop. How do I make this go away? I've got this whole theme window hanging out. Close, there we go. Get thee gone, theme. And the Community Finder is going to have a child node that's a center container that just fills the whole box. And I don't know what it's doing. Stop clicking. Stop. Okay, and then within the center container, we're going to have. Do I actually want the center? I feel like the thing I want is at the top of the Community Finder. I want a search window. So maybe I shouldn't have a center container be the first child of it. Sorry, center container. You should fill the entire box. And then Community Finder, add child node. Should I have like a panel behind it? Or should I just have the controls exist like floating in space and then panel behind it on the outer layer? Again, learning how to do this kind of as I go, so it's panel. Okay, so if I want it to start with the thing, that would be like a horizontal stack. Let's look at these. Let's look at the controls we have available to us. So we want layout controls, and certainly not a tree or a video stream or a tab bar. Tab bar is kind of cool. Maybe I need to consider a tab bar shortly, but I think what I'm looking for is in the containers. This is the layout zone. And so I started with a center container, but I think what I want is maybe a box or a flow. No, not a flow. It's definitely probably a box, like a V box, and then I'll have my search window be the first item in the V box. And then afterwards, like a list of search results. Scroll. Oh, the search results should live in a scroll. That would make sense. But of course the first element shouldn't. So we'll start with a VBox container. That seems like and then that's going to be full width. And then the first thing would be the search box. Now search box actually feels like a complicated enough concept that it might want a scene all to itself. And so this is also like when I'm working on UI code, and this is when I'm working on code in like React and not code in something like, I mean, this is a much more visual environment, but when I'm working on code in like React, I would separate UI into things like pages or like layouts and things that are like components. And so here I've just called it UI, but maybe I should rename that to layouts. And then I'll create a new folder and call it components. And this is the other thing. This is, I often go plural in folder names. You know, it's a folder called layouts, not a folder called layout. And I'm not sure if that's the right way to go about that, but it's an old habit. It dies hard. And we're going to create a new scene in the components folder, and it's going to be called search bar. That feels good. That feels like a nice thing to have done. Okay, now search bar is going to be a component that horizontally flows, right? So the search bar is going to start by containing, add a child node, like a horizontal, that's an HBox, that's an HBox container. It flows horizontally. It fills 100% of the space. And the first item in the HBox container is going to be the place where you type in the search text. So that's a text thingy. A text edit? A line edit. I think it's a line edit. Text edit is bigger. So it starts with a line edit. This is a touch ugly, but it's because we're... Honestly, can I resize this as if it were a smaller... Yeah, the thing that I'm asking, I guess I'll have to... Even though I know that the full window is like this large, phone-shaped window, I know that the search bar is likely to live in like, no more than 100 tall pixels of space. So I'd love it if this scene thought that the window was much thinner than it currently is, because otherwise we're going to have this very, very strange looking layout. That seems like a thing I should be able to fix. Maybe is there like scene definition I can poke at to make that happen? I'll worry about that in just a sec. So a search bar is kind of, there's the part where you type in the search, and then usually there's a button next to it that you click to like trigger the search, although sometimes it's nice to have the search just go as you type. I mean, it's connecting to a web service, so you don't necessarily want live response or like, not instant response at the millisecond layer. As soon as you type a keyboard, it's going to have to hit the server and come back, which means you want like a little debounce on it, like maybe wait 500 milliseconds after the last keyboard strike, and a new keyboard strike restarts the timer, because otherwise you will just kick off a whole bunch of searches that don't need to occur as you type the first 5 letters of the word. So, wait until the last key has been pressed, and then give it like another 500 milliseconds to say that, make sure they're not starting another key, and then you kick off the search. And then you might have to wait another 200 milliseconds to actually get your results back, even if the server responds really quickly, which it will on this computer because it's running on localhost and it's Rust, so it like you should get half a millisecond response times. But in the live, this is actually, I'm gonna go off on a digression. Hey, Derek. Yeah, so, sorry, he might have already left. For all I know, I should actually keep an eye on, like, how many people are in my stream, so I know when I'm talking to people or just talking to myself. See this, like I said, I am very new to this entire streaming business and don't always know what I'm doing. Oh yeah, you might even still be there. Cool. Yeah, so, the thing I was saying when I was talking to nobody in particular, but there is a cool trick that I've done with my React web services where all of my web requests run through a single centralized point, and then I can set a delay to simulate running code in the live. So while I'm working on React web services, I can say all of my web calls, treat them as if they take 600 milliseconds, which is an absurdly long time for a web call to take. But then you get to see all of the different parts of your application like loading as if the server were responding slowly, which gives you more of a chance to make sure those elements look right and work correctly. And then of course when you launch it, you turn that off, so people should, you know, experience everything at its full speed. But while you're developing, you can see everything as if it weren't working quickly, which I think is a useful trick, and it's something I'm going to try to simulate also while I'm working here in Godot. When I get to the point where I start working on HTTP services, I'm going to try to make sure to run them all through the same interface where I can configure how long to delay before sending off the queries, so that while I'm testing, I can make sure that all of the behaviors while it's waiting for a query to respond look right. Okay, so here we are. We've got a search bar. We should still have a button, though. It just feels like a basic component of a search bar. So we've got a line edit, and then after the line edit, we should have a button. And God, that looks not great. The button has text. Search. Search. I don't like the word search. I would rather have the button have, you know, the little magnifying glass in it. Icon. Oh, this is the sort of thing where we could put an icon in here, I guess, and then I would pull in a texture. Okay, so this is where if I had an icon texture, I would put it in here. Okay, so I've got this terrible plan. And the terrible plan is that while I am doing, you know, just put something together as quickly as possible development, that if I need an icon, I will just draw it. And so let's switch over to the doodle zone. We'll go new. And I don't know, what's a good size for an icon? We're doing this at like high res for a Macintosh, not a Macintosh, and well, I guess you could still call it a Macintosh Apple iPhone style display, which has a ton of horizontal pixels. So what was the what is the resolution of a iPhone 16? Okay, so that's 2556 by 1179. So let us create something that is 2556 by 1179. Now, the reason we're creating the full-sized okay, so here we have, you know, as big as an iPhone screen can get. So that way, when I draw on it, if it looks crisp here, it should look crisp in the final result. And there, we've done it. We have a search icon. That took me so long. Killing it. Okay, we don't want a background. We want that to start transparent. The blue color might be a problem. What's the background color I'm looking at here? Maybe I should pull in the background color of that. Can I? That's gray. I'm just gonna eyeball it. You guys just see, like, pick a gray that looks kind of like the gray that Godot background color. So, we'll create a new layer, and we'll slap in some kind of chunky gray, kind of a bluish gray. We'll paste that there, and look, it disappears. It's completely gone. So maybe I need to draw that with a brush that is a little, I don't know, maybe I'll, that's the thing, is deciding this based on a background color I haven't really set yet. Doesn't make a ton of sense, but white is a good safe color for an icon. Okay, we are going for magnifying glass. Oh, it's too fat at the bottom. What's a good, oh yeah. So also, like, I'm fussing a little too much about this, considering that it's unlikely we're going to use these icons in like a final pass through this. This is just developer art. I think more developers should make developer art. I think it makes their games more charming. At first, you know. Okay, something magnifying. Do I even need this? I feel like this is actually pretty clearly a magnifying glass without like spending a lot of time working on. Getting weird with it. Should it have like the little spot? You know, a little magnifying glass spot. Does that improve it or make it worse? I think this gets it across. Look, it magnifies, it's a glass. We've done it. We've created an icon. Oh, that looks kind of wobbly though. Look at that. It doesn't look like it's straight at the bottom. I swear to God, the world is such a difficult place sometimes. We're going to draw a guideline. That way we make sure that our magnifying glass is properly straight. We'll make that a little less opaque and draw on top of it.
circle. Oh, that's a nice circle. Freehanding a circle is like, it's one of the great challenges of life. Nobody can actually freehand a circle. Oh, that first circle was so good, and then I squandered it like an idiot. Okay, that's not bad. Come on, we can do this. I had it. I had a great circle, and I just... Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that beautiful boy. Okay. Yeah. Much of the way there. Fill it in. This one I could, drawing another circle inside the existing circle, I don't have that kind of artistic chop on display. I think we have a basic magnifying glass icon. You think you click on that, a search happens, you wouldn't feel bad. Okay, let's pull that background. You can barely see it anymore. Let's put that background back while we're... Okay, this is what's going to be on the button, but we are going to, I don't know, crop, save. Okie doke. Toss this into Google Drive, and we'll call this new folder dev art garbage. And maybe even a folder for icons? Switch. Okay, so now we've got a basic ass icon. Okay, at which point we will drop that into our game. Let's jump back to, oh, actually also while we're here, let us back off a few layers so we can see it again. But we're going to go back to Godot. Boop, boop. Okay. I'm straight up just going to create a folder in here called dev art. Okay. Look at this. We've got a search bar. Well, search icon. Little handmade ping. And now, if we go to our button and we have icon here, okay, I'm gonna try something. I'm gonna try something crazy. If I just drag this into here, look at that. It did a thing. I'll take the text away. Can I make? Okay, so if I were building this for like someone with a screen reader, I'd want it to have the text but not show the text. What's BD? BD. Oh, that is bi-directional, I guess, for if I wanted to do, what's the word, if I wanted to use an Arabic language that displays in the other direction? Yes, okay, so that's for localization. Text behavior. If I were to have it just know that it's a search, but not say the words that it's a search. Flat takes away the background. Auto wrap, clip text, no. Where would that be? Oh, accessibility. I bet there's accessibility in here. There we go. A name. I can just name it search. That way blind people can know that it's search, even though I didn't actually name it search on the icon itself. Click me to make a search happen. You know, that feels a little unnecessary. Search should be plenty. What does the search button do? It does a search. Getting into the weeds with that. Live? Polite or assertive? I need to learn more about accessibility because I have no idea what this means. Search! 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 Okay, polite and assertive control nodes. Okay, we don't want to override any theme here. This is probably good. Okay. So we've got a search button. It's huge. I'm going to have to, I'm going to save search bar. I'm going to slap my search bar into the VBox container. So it should be the top thing in the VBox container. So search bar lives large, and here we see it sort of aligned to the top of the screen, but probably we want this limited in its height. Can I do that with layout? That's a minimum size. Oh yeah, here's where we sort of define. We want it to be as wide as it can be, right? But not as vertical as it can be.
This is just alignment too. Where's the actual shape of things? It's here. Okay. So here we've set it to fill all the space that it has access to. But maybe what we want is it to be as wide as it can be, but not as tall as it can be. Okay. Top wide. Feels like... I don't really know what I'm doing here when it comes to how this... expand horizontally. And then here we also want it to sit at the top. And then the line edit. We know the line edit should be way bigger than the icon. The icon should be quite small. This feels like if we fuss around in here, we might be able to find. Again, layout feels like a transform, make it smaller. All of this feels like it's locked away because it's a child. So this positioning is coming from its container. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Icon behavior. Expand icon on. No. It should be in the center. It should be in the center. Icon should just be in the center of the button. That's exactly where it should be. But making it as big as the image is not really what we want. We want the image to scale to the size of the icon, not the icon to scale to the size of the image. Tooltip. The text in this tooltip should be search. Oh, figuring out focus layers is going to be its own complicated little input. Oh, it's fun to click around, find out what things do. I already opened accessibility and theme. Closer to something. It still feels like this whole box is showing up as big as. Okay, let me set this to expand. Fill half of the space, and then we would set the stretch on this to be wider so that it fills more of the space. Feels like a thing. So it's container sizing. Ooh. We want the stretch ratio to be way higher on the search bar than we want it to be on the. So 1 is half of the space, and we wanted to like 3 to 1 maybe? But then again, this is taking up too much space, and it's because it's sizing around the icon we put in there. Need to figure out how to make it not do that. Again, container sizing? Stretch ratio, make it smaller? It doesn't matter, because the icon is blocking it from getting any smaller. I don't want to change the underlying asset. I just want to tell it it's okay for this button not to take up as much space as the icon I drew into it. Scale it down, please. I wonder if I kick this one off. Do I get to type in there at least? Search bar. It's a little chunky and dumb looking, but there it is. I could search. Okay, well that's a start at least. It's kind of what I'm looking for. Okay. Well, that's off to a fun start. Okay, this is the thing that keeps happening when I'm using Godot. I leave the scene and it's like press play to start the game. I started the game, I shut it back down again. What's wrong? Why can't I keep doing Godot? Do I have to quit something? I feel like I closed the thing and boot it back up again. Start the game, quit the game, and now we're back. That's weird. And if somebody knows Godot enough to explain what's happening there to me, please do, because the fact that I need to boot the game up and then shut it back down again and boot it up and then shut it down again, it feels a little needless to me. Okay, so what am I looking for? I'm looking for a way to make this less tall. And if that lives anywhere, lives in the Y of the transform. Layout direction. No, we already know the layout direction. Clip contents, clip size. Okay, we might need to go to the internet for this. It might be time. Godot, scale a button with an icon. This is not a person with the problem that I'm having. So it's not. Add the image as a child of the button instead of setting the button's image property. The button won't allow you to size. Yeah, this is the problem I'm having. Add a sprite as a child of the button and resize the sprite. Yeah, there might be some features you miss out this way. Okay, well, this person has solved the problem 6 years ago. I don't love that solution, but it's a solution. Change the scale of the inspector. You've got a very similar scene tree to me too. Margin container, VBox container, HBox container, then the menu button. Well, here we got a potential solution, which is to put the button. If I make a button fit the size of its icon, it's already doing that. Really, I want it to not fit the size of its icon. Scale graphical asset from control nodes is another good question. They're like, just simply build the asset to the sizes you need. Come on, man. I want to use automatic scaling for this. That's why I made such a gigantic texture in the first place. Image texture, and then set image texture, set size override to override its size. Doing code? I don't feel like this should need code yet. Oh boy. This feels like it might be overkill for the problem I'm facing. Not to say that it's not potentially the solution, but... Okay, so the places to look at are here in the icon. We have an image texture. We create a new image texture, and then we drag search into here. No, that's not doing nothing. This is the place we were at before. This is an image texture, and then in the resource, it only gives us a few options. 199 by 221. I really nailed the size of that. It's square-ish. It's sort of square adjacent. Okay, and let's see here. I don't think I can change this size here. I don't think that this is an option I have available to be this little micro image editor. What if I were to not have this? Let's remove this, clear it out. Just have the button, and then add a child node. I guess I could just drag the search. There we go. So now we have this living inside the button. No, that set it to the button's image. That's, again, not what I wanted. Gosh, you're being frustrating. Add child node. Go to sprite. Sprite 2D. Now you, sir, can be this. Now you need to live inside your button. Can you put a 2D object inside a control node? Maybe you can. Okay, back to this person who had the same problem as me. texture button node? Is there a node for textured buttons? I feel like that's a different. That's if you want the button to be exactly the same texture as the thing you've dropped in. Where is this? This is coming in from the top left. So offset centered. Region transform. Well, first of all, maybe I could just make that smaller. Here's about the size that I want. I mean, there's always just like positioning it at 0, 0. And how big have I made it? 0.25, a quarter of its original size. And so what if I slap it in there? This feels bad. This doesn't feel like the right solution. This feels like a hack. And now the size of the button is not as related to the size of the search bar, but this also still feels bad. If it moves around, it doesn't feel like it's going to stay stably where it should. Maybe it will. Oh, that's scaled down in a way that I'm not 100% happy with either. What's this automatic scaling? What's our scale algorithm at play here? Again, project settings. Fractional, integer. I feel like fractional scaling is the smoother looking scaling. Okay, and again, once again, we're in Clark, so we have to start it again and close it again. I don't know why that happens. Hit me up in the comments. Gosh, I've made very little forward progress today. Okay, so I haven't really been 100% on board with this Sprite 2D solution. How about I take the button, add a child node, and it's a center container. Add a child node, and it's a panel. Now we got button, center container. Center container should fill the whole button, so anything we put in it will be centered in the middle of the button. So where we would put, for example, an image in this panel. Is a panel something we can attach an image to? Can you search? Can you be a search panel? No, that's not that's doing anything. Unless, you mind. Is there a texture rect, maybe? Seems like a thing that could... Ooh, texture rect. That actually does feel like the thing I'm looking for. Let's display it. It looks like a thing. I'll slap a search in here. There we go. So we have the button. The button has a container. The texture rect is inside of it. Then we can scale it. We want to ignore its size and instead have it fill whatever container it's in. What's this button even do? When active, moving control nodes changes their anchors instead of their offsets. Well, we're not moving it ourselves anyways. So we've got this filling. This texture rect should be filling its parent, right? Instead, it's not. Fit width proportional, fit height proportional. That's all neat. Layout, child of a container. what I really want this to do is to fill the center container that it's inside of. Can I just like slap this in the button and get rid of the center container? That's not, still kind of weirdly shaped. Ignore size. Scale. And it takes up no space? Why do you have no width? Where your width at? Fill your parent. Okay, that's stretchy fill your parent. That's not bad. If we scale it to keep centered, and we tell it to fit with proportional, fit the height, fit the width makes more sense. It's a little chunky still. Fit width, ignore size. But I see that's still a little big. I would like it to be centered in the button without being that big. I kind of do want it to sit inside a center container and have that determine its width from the outside. Okay, so now we have a center container. The center container should sit like that. Button, center container, texture rect. In the center container, does this allow me to set the like amount of padding? Maybe that's in theme. Theme overrides? I don't want a type variation. Okay, we're going to the internet once more, and we're gonna say, Godot, can I set the amount of padding in a center container? Oh, there's something called a margin container? That also feels appropriate. It's a container that keeps a margin around its child controls. That makes sense. What's a center container if not something that should do the center? Godot center container. A container that keeps child controls at its center. But it keeps them there at their minimum size. Oh, okay. So maybe that's why the object was no sized, because that's what center container does. Instead, what I want is a margin container? Let's give that a shot. Okay, center container, you're changing. You are change type, but becoming a margin container. Ooh la la. I have to rename you because you're a margin container now. Okay, can you give me how much margin you are? Where is the amount of margin contained within you? Transform? 10? I think it's not actually. Oh, I do want clip contents. I think button should clip its contents, right? No, button doesn't have access to clip contents. Oh, maybe it does. Here. You cannot go outside the button. That is the thing that makes sense. We've got a margin container. Within the margin container, we're going to want to set a margin. Yes, this makes sense. This didn't do it. Unset that. Layout direction, layout mode anchors. You should fill all the space you have available to you. Anchors preset. Full rect. Yeah, that's the anchors I set. Ooh, here we go. It's in the theme override. So, if I had a theme, I could set the margin that is default in all of my margin containers. But, for now, I could just override it and say 10 pixels at each of these. 10. 10. Okay, maybe it feels like the thing in the center should be getting smaller, but it's not. 50. 50. 50. 50. Okay, we've pushed it in, but it hasn't gotten smaller. That feels like a problem with the texture rect. We keep the size, ignore the size, fit the width, stretch mode, scale. There we go. Ooh. Oh, that seems like it's working. So now, if we adjust the margins, 100, 100. 100. 100. We get a smaller icon. That is kind of what I want. Okay. I think that the correct actual margin for this is 10 on all sides, which is still gigantic looking, but we want this whole thing to actually be smaller, so... But 10 on all sides. Not great, but okay, we have a start. Out here at the HBox container, I would love this to not be as tall as it is. And now I know the tallness is not defined by the size of the icon, because we worked really hard to disengage that. Oh, this is just the outer game. I've started nothing except for the outer game that contains no parts. Let's run just this scene. Okay, there's our big chunky search bar. Everything still seems like it works the way it's supposed to. But out here in the community finder, we have the search bar as the first object in the VBox container. And the other thing that's going to be in here is a scroll node containing search results, right? A V-scroll bar. And I don't know, we probably need like a result object and a whole bunch of them, but for now, nothing. Just fill with some panels for now. So we got a search bar at the top and a V-scroll bar with panels. And these panels are full width. I'm still so bad at figuring out this Godot UI. Or did I lose my tunes? Let's get some tunes back. Oh, okay. Oh, what a... I just want it to be CSS. You guys, I don't like learning a new UI system. I know how to do CSS and HTML. This is its own weird world with its own complicated anchoring system. We've got a search bar and a V-scroll bar, but the search bar is existing on top of the V-scroll bar. I don't want that. I want the V-scroll bar to sit below them. That's why they're in a VBox container. Is it because this thing is aligned weirdly? I know the search bar should be full width and not full height. Just sit at the top. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Okay, what I'm going to look up is how to set the max height of an item. Godot. How to set the maximum height of a container. Just here's the entire container documentation. Max size container. You have to make your own node. That doesn't sound right. Good lord, someone has made their own node and put it on GitHub. Oh, that's a bad sign. Oh, that's a really bad sign. All control nodes have a rect min size, but they lack... Yeah, that is a problem I'm struggling with right now. Oh, I hate that this is a thing. This should be built in. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Okay, we're gonna save this because it does seem like that's the way I should be doing it. Just reading documentation like a chump. Okay. Yeah, their children give up their positioning ability. Repositions all its children. aspect ratio container, maybe? I mean, the idea of a search window is that it has a fixed aspect ratio. Like, it should always be the same. There should always be the same ratio between the, search window. No, really what you want is that the button is always the same size, but the search window can, like, flex and get bigger or smaller as the whole unit gets wider or thinner. Oh, this virtual is maybe a little bit too aggressive. I need something a little more chill playing in the background. Yeah, that's a little more chill. Okay. See, when I read the center, yeah, minimum size. Okay. So this has not been overwhelmingly useful, and that is 100% of the documentation. I've just read all the documentation available on their UI. Like, one of the things I struggle with Godot is sometimes their documentation is extremely terse. I don't want to do, like, again, we're doing a UI that is supposed to be flexible, so the anchor offset system isn't really what I'm looking for. That's for simple UIs, where you just sit based on, like this one sits in the bottom left of a... Okay. It does seem like this max size container is going to be my best option here. I hate that I have to go to a plugin for this. It's legitimately a little frustrating. Because otherwise we're going to have a search window that is way too thick. Look at how thick this search window is. Why is it so thick? Is it because there's nothing else in the VBox container? But, like, this search bar, can I just make it the right size? Just size it down. Here, this is about how tall I think the search window should actually be. I grab it, I size it physically. What was I even sizing when I did that? The HBox container? I was sizing the HBox container. Where does that live in the properties? Is that a transform? I think that's a transform. This is the size here, 540 by 48. And then this button is like, it's too fat. I don't want this to scale like this. I want it to fit with proportional? No, that doesn't look proportional. Keep aspect? Yeah, okay. So that's better. This button is still too wide. Can you make it smaller? No, that's not what I want. I want the button itself to be smaller. And the button is sized based on the HBox container's stretch. So I want the line edit. I want the button to stretch like half? 0.5? Be smaller. Okay, so now if I save this and I go to Canoe Finder, the search bar should be kind of more reasonable. How does this look? I mean, okay, the scaling doesn't look good. The scaling looks really bad, but this is about the right size for the search bar. I'm going to search for potato. Pancakes. Yeah, why is the scaling so absolutely chunky there? Godot, scaling looks bad. Anti-aliasing in project settings. That seems like a thing that I should check is turned on. Aliasing is default font. That's font aliasing. Rendering anti-aliasing. Disabled? Doesn't seem right. Give me all the anti-aliasing you can. Is that going to improve things? Let's hope it does. Close. Okay. Now I demand that you look better. That still doesn't look good. I mean, I drew it by hand and then scaled it way down, which is, I mean, it's not exactly what you want for an icon, but I think it still should look better than that. Although, admittedly, like, that is a very, very crisp icon being displayed at a very low resolution. Like, I'm in love with how that looks. It's very close to what I want. It's been coming closer and closer to looking like a search bar. Okay, well, we've made some forward progress here. I got equal views. I mean, nobody stayed for terribly long, but I don't really expect them to. I'm pretty happy about those 8 whole views. I wonder if I could go. No, it doesn't really matter. I wonder how legible my voice is. I imagine I did a couple of test runs before I started the stream to make sure that I could be heard. I also, is a kind of fun detail, I made sure that the music was mixed so that you get more bass and more treble, and then there's a big ditch in the middle where my voice can live, so that even though I'm trying to talk over the music, I should still remain fairly legible, even though I talk very quietly. Hopefully that, I don't know, it's my first foray into the basics of sound mixing, but it seems like a good idea. It means I'm not competing as much with the drums and the bass. Okay, so the problem I'm having right now is that this, which I rendered very crisply, I think, and like look, it's small and it still looks crisp here. If I do that here, that looks still looks pretty good at all kinds of different sizes, right? That looks good. But then when I boot it up in the game, it very decidedly does not look good. Is there a setting here I should be fussing with? Allow game input. Yeah, we want that. What's this do? There you go. Base it on project settings. Still looks bad, but okay. So oh, one thing I'm noticing. Here, let's take a look at that. This is claiming to be, 895 by 1940. That does feel like the resolution this might actually be. So I don't think that's the problem. Why does my icon look so bad? Sprite's low resolution when scaled. Anti-aliasing did help a little. Yeah, I could just, I guess, scale down the asset, because right now it's like 200 pixels wide, but I do expect that the scaling in Godot should be sufficient. It just seems like the scaling in Godot is really, really ugly looking for hand-drawn assets. I could just, have vector assets for UI buttons, but okay, this person's got scaling trubs. This is not the same scaling trubs I'm having. Scales poorly on a bigger monitor. I do have a gigantic monitor. That may be contributing here. No, they're complaining about Godot's UI. That's not the problem I'm having. It actually looks great, Godot's UI. Yeah. Do I have to set viewport scaling? That might be worth investigating. Because I've set the display to be smaller than I intend to deliver it, right? Sorry, display, window. So this viewport width and viewport height are quite a bit smaller than the actual size of the phone. I think it's like a quarter or a half the actual phone resolution. A half of the phone resolution. And what I want viewport scaling. It's just viewport width and height. Scaling, scale. Okay, scale 2. Everything twice as big. Oh, sorry, I did the regular. Okay, just want this scene, not the outer scene. Oh, that's really bad. It's bigger, but worse. And I didn't want it bigger. I wanted it to be the size that it was before. Okay, so this was not the thing to change. I know integer scaling is just going to look like super chunky. That's like if you wanted to scale like a pixel art video game. Oh, well, this is quite bad. What have I done here? Now my UI exists in a little hole in the center of itself. Project settings. Okay, we set that back to fractional. And we stop looking for scaling. But the display size hasn't changed. What's gone wrong here? Reboot the game. You should take up this normal amount of space you always take up. 895 by 1940. So we're taking the default resolution that we designed the game in, and we're doubling it for the actual effective resolution that we are displaying here. And so this screen looks bad. It looks quite bad. And is it because it's taking that original image and like sizing it down and then sizing it back up again, and it's losing a lot of fidelity in the double translation? This is frustrating. I think I might stop streaming for a little bit and try to resolve this on my own time, and maybe have dinner. Okay, well, it's been nice talking to you, Void, and I'll see you again later.